Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Time to Talk. Good evening, Faye. How are you doing today?
Good evening, Rafael. I'm fine, and really happy to be here again to see you and seeing our friends. Yeah,
Likewise.
thank you.
Today we are on episode 56. Let me bring it back up.
9 to 56.
So, 56 episodes of Time to Talk. And if it's the first time you're just stumbling upon us and coming across us, Time to Talk, the idea of Time to Talk is just to have a chat, conversation, dialogue about topics related to mediumship. The idea is not to have a lecture, not to have a talk. It's to have a conversation. Um, so the more dynamic in terms of comments, questions, participation, the better. So we can address doubts, bring up questions, bring up anecdotes, comments, stories, and so on. So feel free to, at any point, drop your name, drop where you're coming from, um, share with us things that you might be going through, or you went through, or you know stories about, or questions that you have, and then we're going to bring them up, and we're going to try to develop it. I'm not going to say answer it because I don't know if we have the answer, but we'll talk about it. Um, and if you don't have the answer, we will go away and try to come back with the answer maybe next time. That is time to talk. So today is episode 56, the Energy of Spirits. But before we go in, we have our usual announcements about our broadcasters. First of all, we have the Spiritual Society of London, SSL. SSL is a group, a study group dedicated to studying Spiritism here in the UK. You have a few online sessions on Tuesdays and on Saturdays, and you have a face-to-face session on Thursdays. If you'd like to know more about those sessions or join us, we have the details on our Facebook page. SSL is affiliated to BUS, the British Union of Spiritual Societies. BUS works like an umbrella entity trying to unite, create a community of spiritual societies in the UK. BUS also has a lot of different initiatives helping the different study groups and charities, and also trying to disseminate spiritism here in the UK. And the third one is Cardiac Radio, which has been around for over 12 years now. Cardiac Radio is dedicated to creating content in English about Spiritism. It has many, many different channels. So go in, follow them, like their page, download their app, so you don't miss out on anything that's available. Right. The identity of spirits. So today I propose the subject. So I'm not gonna be able to do my usual, which is to throw it straight to Faye so she can start talking. Because today when we were thinking about like what kind of topic to bring up, I came across this one. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I will tell you why I think this topic is an interesting one for us to bring up. Because one way or another, this is always something present when we're talking about mediumship. If you think about it, people are interested in mediumship or in spirits and so on because maybe they want to get in contact with somebody who passed, and then if they find that there's a medium, it's a possibility, they try to go in and try to find evidence as much as possible and dig into and analyze everything they can receive to make sure that they can confirm the identity or not. Or a lot of messages that might be received, they are connected, that are linked to famous names or references in specific fields, and then people want to validate, question, or discredit people because of that. or even the people, the mediums that tell themselves or tell others that they can communicate spirits, that there's also an element of identity around them, or who is helping them, what kind of mentors are with them, who guides them, who gives the messages, and so on. So this question about the identity of the spirits is always around, regardless of where you how you arrive into the topic of mediumship. And when I was searching and looking around in terms of books, I realized there is a full chapter in the Medium's book dedicated to that, which is chapter 24. Let me bring it here. So chapter 24 on the Medium's book talks about possible proofs of identity, distinguishing between good and evil spirits, questions concerning the nature and identity of spirits. So there's a few pages with covering this topic. And that's why I thought it was a good one for us to bring. So before I go to Faye, I see there are a few people already online. I want to say hello to them. Wave back, tell me who you are, so you can say hello and tell us about what do you think of this topic? What comes to your mind when you think about the identity of spirits?
Yeah.
Faye, you.
Yes.
What comes to your mind when I bring up this topic?
Well, you mentioned that this topic, this idea, has been with us forever, and we see that if whether linked or not to religion, but in every culture, there has always been a moment in which people sought the wisdom of spirit guide, from a seer, from a soothsayer, or even to find answers to crucial questions of their lives or doubts, and seeking teachings, seeking contact with loved ones. So I think I agree. It's something that belongs to our days, as it has always belonged to humankind. And in every culture, the names change, the hierarchy. Sometimes there is one, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes the priest or priestess is a prominent figure in the community, and because they have the ability to contact, or they claim to have the ability to contact the spirits. And so that's it's something that keeps people in doubt, in awe. It's something that suggests hope, escape to suffering, to sadness, to ignorance. And especially in times of crisis, like in times of war, when there's so much suffering from at every level and so much loss. This is one of the times when people, the suffering and the lack of answers, when it's difficult to understand such a horrendous situation, people step out of their reality, the down to earth reality, to wonder, how is that possible? Is there anything more spiritual than that? Can I find an answer in the spirit realm? Because nothing here makes sense. Isn't it that history has been bringing this over and over again?
Yeah. It's funny that you're talking about these moments, right, where people might be going through pain or issues, and how that um, is something that brings people closer to those subjects and topics.
Mm-hmm.
And before we started, we were talking about how these moments of pain and suffering, in a lot of cases, it brings people closer to their faith, or make them look for further understanding about, spiritual life after death, and things like that.
Yeah.
And how that plays a big role in many cases in this, I guess,
Yeah.
investigation or proximity or closeness or becoming closer to faith.
Yeah, I think this glimpse, this possibility of a contact, or stepping out from the routine that seems too bleak, or pointless. The simple fact that people step out, they don't need to be in any tragedy, in any tragic circumstance, but just the fact that it gets to a point, of seeking something more, something deeper, more elevated, that becomes a turning point in many lives, because it can be life changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Right, but how do we go about then identifying spirits then? Because if you think about it, and if you think about mediums receiving messages, these spirits doesn't come with an ID. It doesn't bring a document and it provides the document to us. So
No. Well, we were just chatting moments ago, and I remembered something that shows how somebody with, immense heart, immense knowledge, and depth of vision, felt so terribly sad, so terribly sad for the loss of his son. When we were talking about an author that everyone knows, that's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And at the end, the First World War was absolutely terrible and terrifying. It was one of the worst tragedies the planet has ever seen. And he lost his son, his only son, there. He had seen, he was a doctor, he had seen the horrors of war. But the thought of thinking of what his son, his beloved son, had gone through to disappear and die in those circumstances made him seek for an answer. Say, well, no, there must be a meaning to this. There must be an answer. Why has this happened? Where is my son? How is he? Is he well? At least if I knew that he was at peace, that he's well and being looked after, I would feel less distraught with that. And that's what he did. He was already a spiritualist, and this is how he met spiritists, because from the spiritualism that he knew and the mediums that he knew, he decided to study that even further, contacted Allan Kardec, and then we know the rest of the story. He became one of the most enthusiastic and profound defenders of and developers of the spiritist ideas ever. Yeah, but then how would he know? Well, that would be evident. Only he could tell if whatever message he received would be a genuine communication from somebody he knew deeply and loved deeply, because then their communication, the language, the words and some details, even if it's a small, just a brief message, would still bear the characteristics of the person that he was hoping to hear from.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, when it's a more personal thing, there will be evidence that only the person could identify. The medium wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And the medium wouldn't even ask. So that's the things they wouldn't ask. So they didn't want to be influenced in any way. And the receiver of the message would know, would be able to tell, yes, I know this person. Yes, this is a genuine message.
Yeah.
But you're right to say that there are.
Interesting as you were. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, the saying that, but just like people, incarnate people, there are people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, everywhere. The people, the spirits also differ widely, simply because if they are from all walks of life here, and they carry on being from all walks of life, whatever they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how can we tell? How can they communicate? Can they? And when and why? And how can we tell? So I return the question.
It's interesting that you were as you were describing, and Rafael, I can see your question. I'm going to bring your question up, which is a very good one. But just before that, as you were describing, the whole possibility of whoever is receiving the message through a medium that doesn't know the person, the spirit.
Yeah.
That's giving indication in terms of how it's speaking, the words they're using, nicknames, facts, and so on that the medium wouldn't know. In the same way that somebody who is like eager to find anything, desperate to find anything to hold on to, will easily find something to hold on to. Somebody else who is super skeptical, who will doubt everything, will be given the same subtle notes and will question and doubt and not accept it in any ways. And I think in the end, a bigger question that I will pose is why the identity is so important in that specific message. So of course, if we talk about consolation for a lost one, it's obvious. But as we talk about messages that are destined to everyone, that are meant to help us think and reflect and guide us, in our moral journey as human beings, then it becomes a bit more okay. But is the signature that important, more important than the content? I think that's already. I think the questioning element of it needs to be kind of always playing our minds.
Well, that depends, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. But I want to park this because I want to bring Rafaela's question.
Okay.
So Rafaela is asking us that she has a question based on tonight's topic. To what extent can your personality change from the contact with spirits? Can it change for good also? What do you think, Faye?
Well, the personality change from the contact. Well, I think of two personalities there. One is the contacted spirits and the contactee. So remember that as a medium, You're a spirit too. Right. What you as a spirit can change, I would say, that would be in the sense of learning something. When you learn something, when you talk to a friend, when you talk to someone who makes an impression on you, it could be anywhere, but you find somebody with brilliant ideas, with the good insight about something, and it's like, gosh, I hadn't thought about that. And if I like the idea and I decide and I like that lesson, that's changed me. If I want to incorporate that into my repertoire, into my way of living. Oh God, I didn't know that using this project isn't a good option. Maybe I've learned that there's something else that's better. That makes me different already because my behavior has changed. Now, when I suppose that when you by contacting spirits, a similar thing can happen depending on what we learn, depend on what we realize. And if the question is, can you change for good also? I don't, that implies that you will change for bad. I don't think it necessarily changes anything or anyone for bad. You're not going to be a worse person just from the contact with spirits. As much as you're not a worse person if you contact an incarnate person who's not very pleasant.
Yeah.
Because, well, that conversation was a bit unpleasant. I didn't like the conversation, but that did not make me an unpleasant just from hearing it, unless I decide to adopt that unpleasantness and use it in my life. But then that's a choice. So my difficult customer doesn't make me difficult. It makes me tired, but not difficult. But once it's gone, problem solved, I'm same person again. Yeah. Does it make sense?
It makes, and I like that parallel with that's two things that I was thinking about. First of all, I like that parallel a lot about let's treat spirits as incarnate people, because we're all the same, right? We are on this side, they're on this side, but in the end, we're just people. And to which extent the incarnate people have an influence in how your personality presents. I think that's a great way of seeing it. But there's another one, which is that unidentified influence that these spirits might have on you. And it's not changing who you are, but if you're not aware about where is that, we were talking about emotions last time, remember? We were talking about how important it is to identify, is this emotion, the way I'm reacting, the way I'm feeling, coming from me or not? Mm-hmm. If there is an influence that is making you act in a different way because you're happy, because you're content, because you're motivated, because you're euphoric, or because you're upset, so if you're angry, so it's not changing who you are, but it is affecting how you are presenting yourself, because you might be.
Yes, you can just, if we return to the incarnate, let's imagine that one deals with a number of difficult people, and that strains their endurance, their patience, their understanding. It makes that person irritable from tiredness, from the influence, from so much negative influence from dealing with difficult people for an extended period of time. Well, if that person is balanced and has find friends and good people to talk with, that person might get some time to rebalance, reorganize ideas, talk to someone, find a way, a healthy way of disconnecting from that difficult time that it was his mission, it was his work, it was he had to endure. Because from that, he probably managed to help some changes that were done. Somebody was influenced by this person's resilience and knowledge. The person took the burden, but in return, the exchange from this person was positive. So someone got a solution, someone got something positive, the person was tired. So then he had to what? Recharge his spirit, recharge his batteries, change the subject, see something light, and move on. Can that happen with working with spirits? Oh yes, because in a way I would say so, because we're exchanging ideas, we are exchanging electricity, or isn't it? We are communicating with electricity, magnetism, that sort of thing. And so we can be charged momentarily, can be charged with some negative load from that spirit. But once the work's done, once the conversation is over, clean it. Recharge, make a prayer, calm down, silence, and rebalance.
The other thing I was thinking about, Faye, and I think that it's very, very good that you brought this up, that this end, like the closure of a message, for example, as a medium receive a message, and I think that's a good hook, because I was thinking about both from a perspective of ostensive medium, who receives messages, hears, can speak, can see, etc., and from a non-ostensive medium, which is everybody else, right? Which are also subject to influence, but cannot like give passage to a direct message like that. And in both ways, in both cases, you have the control or the power to have the control in terms of what influences you or not. As an ostensive, if you're not an ostensive medium, how does that work? Being aware of your thoughts, being aware of how you're feeling, being aware of where does it come from? Is it from me? Is it not? Do I agree? Do I not? Do I change this idea? So it's that. The exercise is that. If you're a medium, of course, there might be difficulties. If you're an ostensive medium who doesn't understand what's going on, is susceptible, subjective to a stronger influence where spirits are imposing themselves onto you, and you don't know yet how to control this, you might be with what we call like an unbalanced mediumship, where you can't really control that. But within you, the more you learn, the more you study, the more you practice yourself, it is you have to allow a spirit to take over, whatever they need to pass the message on.
Exactly. The word that comes to mind is give authority. You decide. I think there was, so there may be there is an idea that once there is a contact with the spirit, that spirit is powerful, will overpower, will take hold of things. But first of all, your body is your castle. You rule. Nobody's going to rule that place unless you let them to. Nobody's going to invade your house and make a mess in there unless you open the doors and let them to. Because you may open doors, invite people into your house, but you set the rules, you set the pace. And if somebody's behavior becomes inappropriate, you show them the way out again. As simple as that, don't you? Oh, I'm not going to be impolite and let them mess my house up. No. So if that doesn't happen to our dwelling, to the place where we live, why would that happen to our body, to our soul, to our mind? So we get in touch with people according to our ability to handle that. So if I'm not a person who's prepared enough, strong enough, wise and knowledgeable enough to talk to contact a spirit, that will be more demanding because they are mentally, or they've got more experience than I would have, probably. Then the good thing to do is I won't try. I will not go there. And even if I'm at the meeting with my friends, they will know that, oh, this is my limit. So it's very important to set our limits and have our limits very clear. You know, it's no use thinking of any vanity. It's not charity to go. It's not charitable to go beyond our means. That's not charity. That's causing two problems, at least. Because you're not helping the other and disturbing ourselves. So why would it, in the name of charity, there's just one thing that, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There's one thing that we need to think. It's, we don't have to do anything that will work against us. They'll be aggressive to us, or will be beyond our means to deal with it safely and wisely.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we hear, and that's why we say studying, preparing. If people want to contact and work with the spirits, fine, you know. But in the awareness that we've got to know our limits, and those limits will expand with experience, with reassurance, and with knowledge. And another thing, a spirit who's surely good, it doesn't have to be the highest, the most developed, the most elevated. It can be a good, if that's a good person, just as a good person wouldn't think of doing you any harm, claiming what's not theirs. Yeah. A spirit who's of a good heart, of a good nature, wouldn't impose anything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't claim to be who they aren't. Yeah.
Good. Well, I have some other questions here to bring up.
Okay.
But before I go and just say hello to Marco. Hi, Marco. Nice to see you here with us. Rafael, of course, asked the question. We have Ida with us as well. Hi, Ida, and Pablo. Nice to
Hello.
see you all here. Rafaela is asking a follow-up question.
Okay. Bring it
She's
on.
asking, Faye, which practice or exercise do you believe can bulletproof the medium's mind from bad spirits, vibrations, and strengthen the relationship with good ones? I'm going to think about that.
Which practice or exercise do I believe that can bulletproof the medium's mind? The practice is number one, knowing that we work for and with light. Call it the highest entity of light, call it Jesus Christ. The identity you give is secondary to the principle. We work for light. Okay? And if we truly work for light and we let light guide us, then we know what the guidance is. Then we know what to avoid. Then we know that instead of despair, we should calm down and reflect and think, why is this happening? Why am I thinking this way? Does it help to think this way? Why am I feeling down? Can I feel any difference? I think this is something, it's your choice. The bulletproof is your choice. You choose, I choose. I choose not to give in. I choose not to give up. I choose not to be miserable. Talking about the weather is one thing. Letting the weather in is another.
Yeah.
Okay? The weather is horrible. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And well, what can I do when the weather is horrible? Well, I can sit here, I can do the things I like, I can watch a film. I cannot be soaking wet and cold.
Yeah.
But if I still have to do it, if I still have to go out in this terrible weather, well, thank God I've got a raincoat, I've got my brolly, I've got, there must be something that makes that possible and worth and required. It's my part in this game that I'll do it.
Yeah. I was thinking about that and the question, and it isn't an exercise, but we always talk about affinity, right? And I think if you think about, again, the parallel between incarnate and discarnate, if you think about what makes you be closer to your friends, the people that you like to spend time with, what is it? It's the things you have in common, right? It's the things that you share in terms of interests, the things that you share in terms of commitments. It's the places that you go, if you go to the same place, those are the things that will define which circle of friends and acquaintances and so on you have in material life. In spiritual life, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So how do we bulletproof is by creating or demonstrating our commitment with that work, our commitment with our improvement, our commitment with our studies, our commitment to work that help others, prioritizing those things, because it's by the indication, by our actions and our thoughts. Faye was talking about the commitments to monitoring your thoughts and feelings and actively deciding how you're going to react to things. That is how you give indications of your mental state, the energy that you want to put out, or it comes back from how much of the way I live my life demonstrates that.
Yeah. Sure. It makes me think, Rafael, Rafael, that there are some people who are wonderful. Yeah, I think, oh gosh, I wish I was like that. People who are bubbly, they're jolly. Whatever happens, oh, that's fine. Let's go. And they're never caught by anything because their disposition is like that. They don't have time, they don't have an eye for anything that's not nice and jolly and positive, and let's get on with things. So we do it, and in the end, it all works out fine. Many people are like that. Many people are not like that, which again is not a sin not to be like that. And it's not trouble either. What becomes trouble is when we let whatever doesn't feel too good get out of proportion. When we contact a spirit in our work, we're not very likely to find jolly people all the time. Most cases are not jolly. Most cases are people just as much as people who go to an A&E are not jolly.
Yeah.
They're in discomfort. They are seeking support. They're seeking help. They may be in pain. They are sad. So we know that we're very likely to hear of the people like these, and our job is to shed a light there, shine a light and say that actually they don't need to feel like that. We're not saying, no, you're wrong. He's not wrong. He's in his reality. But we can say, look, really, don't worry. We'll look after you. There are some people looking after you. So we help them to see things differently and feel differently and be looked after. Yeah. But there are cases in which we have this good fortune, to have a contact with somebody who's very positive, who's got something very positive and nice and profound to share with us. A lesson, a thought, a message. Because they are doing the other way around. They are the jolly, positive ones who are telling us down here to look. You don't need to. They're doing exactly what we were meant to do, you see. So this happens both ways.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. A good Christian is recognized by their attempt to be better. And I think that's one thing that we need to always take as a maxim. And when I say Christian, I don't mean Catholic or Protestant or this or that. I mean any religion that believes in Christ as a moral example to follow. I have another question here now from Pablo.
Okay.
Pablo is asking, also related to the topic of today, isn't it more important to analyze the content of communications than to know the identity of the spirit? And I think that's we started to touch on that, but then we parked that to talk about
I digress.
But I'm gonna take that away from the parking lot, because I think it's very eye-opening. I'm going to go back to talking about like the chapter 24 in the Medium's book, where he's talking about the identity of spirits. And in the beginning, the first kind of part, it describes it talks about, look, if a spirit comes to us and is giving like this message, is talking just a lot of silly things and jokes and nothing serious, and you can identify by the content it's not a serious message, and then it signs as Plato, you will know, like, of course this makes no sense. Of course this is not Plato just sending this joke, making practical jokes about things. It's just not that. But even if a spirit comes and gives us like a super philosophical and insightful and complex content about philosophy and science as Plato, I mean, how do you know if it's Plato or not? But that's what the spirits are bringing our attention to, which is exactly what you're saying, Pablo. They explain to us that the more evolved spirits get, closer to perfection and so on, the less attached to personalities they are. Because imagine, we talk about reincarnation, imagine how many reincarnations, how many personas have they not been, and names and this and that. And, and they might have been prominent in here or there, they might have been famous or not, so it doesn't matter. So the higher the spirit reaches, the less related to an identity they are. But the important thing is the content is more important than anything else. And we learn, the spirits teach us that spirits, remember we were talking about affinity a minute ago. Spirits are also grouped by affinity. They are also grouped by the type of work they are involved with, the type of impacts they want to make, the group of people they are trying to support. So it might be the case that there's a group of spirits who are connected, to the types of work that one of the apostles started. I think the example that they give is St. Paul or Peter. I think it's St. Paul. Doesn't matter. And then we're receiving a very enlightened message, and it signs as St. Paul. It might not be St. Paul, but they are using that because it's at the same level or is a part of the group of spirits that work with St. Paul. So it's a message coming from that group of spirits which represent the work, the ideas, the enlightenment, the level that St. Paul is. Maybe if it wasn't necessarily him. So you start to understand that the identity is less and less important. It is important for us because we're still very attached, let's say, to these things. But it becomes less and less important as we go.
Yeah, I agree. I think they would use the to identify themselves as such in a way, depending on the nature of the contact and work. It becomes the work and the nature, the purpose, and sometimes it's they want to show that they become accountable to what's being taught. But other than that, they would even show some humility in the sense that the name is not important. I had that name, but not anymore. And today, at this point, I've learned more than what I could possibly know back then. So that becomes a reference. But like I say, with the experience, as these people evolve, they'll probably say things that they, as they were in the past, probably wouldn't, because they didn't know this then. Their knowledge has evolved as well. Yeah. So sometimes using an identity sometimes, using an identity could even undermine the quality of what they're saying.
That's very true. Sometimes the use of identity might make things be questioned regardless of the content.
Yeah.
When the content was the main value of it. So it can go both ways. But here's a good reflection, because I think also back to what Rafael was asking. The identity might not be important, but to identify if it's a good or not, that there's value in that, right? Because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and depending on the type of work you're involved with, if you're receiving messages that you're going to pass on, it's to support a group or give direction, help. It's important to understand where is this coming from, and you identify that based on content and so on. And the other way around, right? Because it's not because it's a good or bad spirit that they are not clever or smart or not try to trick you or not try to, again, do a practical joke with you. And I think that's also important. That's why it's also important to be aware of what is coming. How is that making you feel? What kind of thoughts, idea, images are coming with that? Somebody, can't remember who mentioned that. It was about the impression that is left on you. Something good or someone good can never leave a bad impression on you in that sense, as a medium receiving a message.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who is not good can never leave a good impression on you either. And that helps you to identify it as well.
Yeah. I may feel a bit uncomfortable when I hear somebody good, because I realize that I could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, their message was positive and good and loving. It's my reality that realizes that there's room for improvement. So it's not that they make me feel bad. The way I realize and understand myself spots something that could be corrected, that could be improved. So it's not their fault, it's my lack of action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not doing it to make anyone feel bad.
Yeah.
But it's my conscience is maybe really. Okay, next time I'll try better. Yeah.
That's good. There's a small message just saying that. I'm just seeing if I can bring it up here, because it mentions about benevolence and kindness. Let me just try to find here. It says the benevolence and kindness are essential attributes of purified or evolved spirits. They do not feed hate towards humans or other spirits. They pity weakness and criticize error, but always with moderation and without bitterness or animosity.
Mm-hmm.
If we believe that truly good spirits can only want what is good and say good things, we must conclude that everything in the language of the spirit that denotes a lack of benevolence, kindness, cannot come from a good spirit.
Yeah. Now, in order to see kindness, what also brings to me is that in order to see kindness, we need to know how to live kindness and how to live kindness towards ourselves. Wasn't it Jesus that said, "We'll love thy brother as you love thyself"? So, and it's something that I learned from the Buddhists. They say you cannot identify kindness, you cannot share kindness, identify, or even see that it's there for you to receive if you don't practice that towards ourselves. So let one hand be kind to the other. So if your hand has a fruit and it gives it to the other hand, it will be doing it so simply, so automatically, that then the act of giving the fruit from one hand to the other won't matter. It will be so natural. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And so starting from little things that we can do to give ourselves the chance to be charitable and kind to ourselves, understanding to ourselves. Because if we don't see that, how can we ever identify it in other people?
Absolutely.
If we only feel anger towards ourselves, anything that comes from the others and from the spirits will be anger. So I think it's a huge practice, and it's a wonderful practice to going back to the bulletproof. What's the bulletproof? We prepare ourselves, we give ourselves the chance. If we don't feel peaceful, how can we recognize peace? How can we promote peace? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, Faye, you've made a mistake. Yeah. Okay. Let's understand. Can that be changed? Can that be improved?
Yeah.
I'll try. Next time I'm in this situation, and I will be, I'll try to remember and do things differently.
But that's
not
what
going
it
to-
is, right?
Yeah,
Is learn and don't repeat the same mistakes.
yeah, little by little,
Yeah.
and I think that's the key to strength and to resilience. Yeah. Just like the metal, it goes bit by bit until it's unbreakable.
Very good, Faye. Thank you. Our time is up. So let me bring our announcements before we say our goodbyes.
Okay.
But it was a very good conversation, I thought. Interesting. It's an interesting topic. Right. But anyways, if you want to know more, this chapter is a must. Chapter 24 from the Medium's book.
Yeah.
You can download the Medium's book from the Buzz website for free, or you can buy it online as well. Anyways, our announcements. The messengers are not happening anymore for the time being. If they come back, I will share with you, let you know. We have 2 announcements. There is one missing, actually. There was another one. So let me see if I can bring it up quickly as we speak. The first one is Spiritual Light. It happens every Wednesday. We have different topics every Wednesday with different guests. So if you'd like to tune in and join, you will be treated to a very good talk tomorrow. Then on Saturdays, we have the Medium's Book study group. That one is, there you go. Let's see here. That one happens every morning on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. UK time. Have the details here if you'd like to join. We will have this Sunday, as you know, the first Sunday of every month. What do we have? We have a session on Gabriel Delan. So let me quickly share this because this is an important one. So let me take
the land
this one
season still going on
out.
Yes.
And let me put this one in. Hold on. Bear with me. There you go. So 1st of October, which is this Sunday, we will have Dana Sisi talking about evidence for a future life. So you cannot miss. It's going to be great. It'll be at 7 p.m. UK time. You have also the details on YouTube and Facebook. So Bus will be, and Cardiac Radio will be broadcasting as well as the Spiritual Center for Peace. And that is what I had for today. Faye, any last words? Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for the questions. Very interesting. It's good that they help us think. Yeah.
Nice.
Hope to see you all
Thank
again.
You very much, everyone.
Next time.
Very nice to see you all. Hope to see you in a couple of weeks. And goodbye. That's it. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Ciao.